Okay, it is 5:33 on August 27th, 2025. I'll call this meeting of the Morton County Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Natalie, do you have any sheets for me, voting sheets?
You mean for voting?
She's got it. I guess Dennis has me covered.
Oh.
All right, roll call. Buckley.
Here.
Braun. Is anybody online? No.
I have a caller one.
Okay. So we'll assume that Mike is absent. Berger. Here. Rohr. Here. Tomac.
Here.
Wald.
Here.
Zachmeyer.
Yes.
L. Dwayne is also absent. Okay, so board is here, minus Braun and L. All right, approval of tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And approval of the minutes from July 23rd.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 1, Natalie.
Our first item is the Defender 3 subdivision. This is in the south half of Section 15, Township 139 North, Range 83 West. This is located south of County Road 139, about 1 mile west of Kovash subdivision. So Kovash should be just off the map here. This is the interchange. Subdivision is here. The applicants are Kevin Miller and Judy Miller. This is a proposal to create 2 residential lots. Right now, the subdivision area and this parcel are all one parcel, and they're looking to divide off 2 lots here, and then there is a plat, an exempt plat that is demonstrating that this residual is 35 acres and can retain that agricultural zoning. So that's just an aside, but the subdivision, this is the subdivision here. So this was Defender 1 that we just approved in November of 24, and then this is Defender 2. So those were pretty recent. This is a farmstead that was there before, and then a residence here. Otherwise, everything is agricultural, and then we've got commercial zoning around the interchange. The future land use for this area, we had slated north of County Road 139 for industrial, but this was on the south side here. This was all slated to remain agricultural. So this would create the 3rd and 4th buildable lots in that quarter section. So that is not exceeding our threshold for residential lots or buildable lots in future land use designation of agricultural. There is a pipeline, gas pipeline that does go across there. It's been there for a long time. And, we have approved subdivisions along there, but I just point that out. So Missouri West does have a water line that serves this farmstead. This is, a quarter mile here. These owners probably will put in water at some point. It could get stretched over here to serve these 2 lots. That's within the realm of possibility. Otherwise, these would probably be on a well. So this is in your packet. This is just kind of the lay of the land. So this is the existing approach. It gets hilly on that lot, number one, but our highway staff was out there and determined this is fine for the two lots to split access off of this existing approach. And there is an access easement on the shared corners of the two lots so that they can either go east or west and share that access. And my apologies, I don't have the updated plat in here. It's 50 feet down and 50 feet across would be that shared access in these two corners, the shared corners of the property. So with an approval of this plat, it would be with the assumption that these have that shared access easement there. Otherwise, everything else is the same. So, and also, yeah, my apologies. This line, how far? What's this name? That got bigger. Yeah. So this lot got a little bit bigger, and this lot stayed the same. So this is just a little bit bigger, but essentially both lots conforming, sharing an approach. Staff is recommending approval, and I can take any questions.
Questions for Natalie? Now, I have one thing. So, and I don't think we've brought this up before, but on applications like this, we're still sort of applying the 4 per quarter section. But technically in the comp plan, we exempted areas within a half mile
Of a pay,
of
yes.
a DOT or a state or
Hard surface.
State hard, or what does it say? County or state hard surface road. Yeah,
Yep.
so just hard surface.
Yes, good to point that out.
Yeah, just
So this is sort of exempted in a way.
yeah. I think it's so good to use that as a baseline, but it's not as hard and
Hard and
fast.
fast, yes, in this case. Yes, thank you for the reminder.
Anything else for Natalie? Okay, not seeing anything. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to speak, please come up to the podium. Second call for the hearing. Third and final call. I'll close the hearing. Ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of the final plat of the short form subdivision known as Defender 3 subdivision and the zoning map amendment from agricultural to residential as the subdivision conforms to the regulations established in Article 7 of the Morton County Land Use Code and conforms to the land use priorities established in the 2045 Comprehensive Plan.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 2.
Our second item is our second look at the St. Anthony Commercial Park. This is located in the northeast quarter of Section 7, Township 136 North, Range 81 West. So this is the town site of St. Anthony, and this is just southeast of town. The applicant is Rusty's Saloon and Grill, LLC. We saw this, I believe it was April or May, the preliminary plat of this subdivision, and now we're getting the final plat. This is a 4-lot subdivision. So the rodeo, 1 lot would be the rodeo grounds, and then there's 3 additional lots. You have in your packet a separate application for the use that would go on this lot, but that is separate from just the subdivision itself. There would be a right of way here that goes through the temporary turnaround, just to create a path through in case more development happens to the south. So these 3 lots are requesting, it's a request for those to become commercial, and then a rezoning from ag to industrial on this lot to accommodate the use that's proposed there. So the applicant did get a determination that there is a wetland here. So essentially this is a drainage and stormwater easement, so no building would happen anywhere that would disturb the wetland area. So Missouri West Water did do a hydraulic study and determined that they can provide water for this subdivision. Same with More Grand Sioux, they do have 3-phase power available that can be extended to serve this subdivision and the higher demands that you would see for a commercial or industrial park. Since the last phase, with final plat, we get the stormwater management plan. The county engineer reviewed that and didn't have any issues with the results of that study. The road commission, back when this was first the preliminary plat, they had looked at this and determined that they did want to establish an agreement with the developer that once 3 of these lots would be developed, then this road would get hard surfaced. So the rodeo grounds would automatically count as 1 lot being developed. And so then once a second, and then before a certificate of occupancy would be issued for development on the 3rd lot, that would be the point when the lot owners would all have to get together and hard surface that road. So I do have a draft of a developer agreement in your packet saying as much. If anybody had any issues with that, we can sure talk about it. It is a draft. But that was a recommendation of Road Commission. So in our comprehensive plan, we have policies stating, making some statements about economic development, and we do prioritize commercial, small business growth in the cities. And while St. Anthony isn't an incorporated city, it is sort of an enclave of development. So this is contiguous to development that already exists, and hopefully it will be good for St. Anthony, good for the community. So staff is recommending approval, and I can take any questions.
Any questions for Natalie? Questions for Natalie? Okay, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Abe or Mark, do you have anything you want to say first?
Good evening, Commission. Mark Isaacs with Independent Land Surveying and Engineering. The only, I guess, question I have is, as I remembered the discussion from the last commission meeting, I thought it was talked about or determined that wasn't going to be a requirement to pave any of the road because it was not in the present ordinance. So that was, I guess, clarification. If that was still going to be a requirement for the developers agreement, or I looked back through the minutes and there wasn't anything in there that said you were going to have that provision in there. So just had clarification on that item. So
Thanks, Mark.
any other questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I do have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, in the stormwater plan, it mentions a detention basin in the eastern portion of the proposed improvements. I don't see anything on the plat.
So it's sort of just, I think it's right in that pocket of the wetland, right?
It's in the wetland?
Yeah, no.
In the easement against the
Good
wetland.
evening.
Right next to it.
Abe Almer with ILSE. I'll point at it here. So within that easement that we set aside for the wetland, we also included a berm and where the stormwater pond is. So on this here, the pond is actually right here. What we have is we're creating a berm along this edge to actually channel that water to the pond, and creating a berm here to channel that water also to that pond. Right now, it's just a slope down into the wetland, and we had to create a berm just to channel that water, to store that water in that pond, and all that, the ditch or the berm and the drainage swale and everything, and the pond is all located in that drainage easement.
Okay.
That's why that drainage easement is extra wide compared to that what's shown for the wetland. So.
Good. Just wanted to make sure we talked about it.
If you had the wetland delineated, did you submit a jurisdictional determination on it?
We have submitted it for jurisdictional. We have not received word back. We are not touching the wetland, but you know how it goes. If it gets to the point where they have jurisdiction, they might put another restriction. That's why we offset it back quite a few feet just to stay away from it. The wetland specialist that we hired with WSB Consulting stated that he does not think that it would have jurisdiction under it. So, but we did submit it.
Yeah, so Mark, I was another question for you, and I think it's probably a null point given it's in the easement anyway, but if it's non-jurisdictional, what's the implication of delineating it on the plat, and does it serve any purpose? Or if it comes back non-jurisdictional, do you just take it off and leave it as an easement? Kind of, even if it's jurisdictional, right, those boundaries can change. So maybe my question is just, it's in an easement, is there a reason to delineate it?
Probably not. It probably would be a good idea not to have that on the plat as far as the wetland. So I guess we could take that off. It's good for information to see at this level, to picture that. But for that, to perpetuate that moving forward probably isn't a good idea to have it on the plat.
Yeah,
unless it was, completely concise that it was jurisdiction of the Corps. But
And even then,
even
it's
that,
good for
that's
5
still
years.
subject. Yes.
Yeah.
So for as far as the plat is concerned, as long as you have that protected in the easement, that you're not going to have any improvements or any construction going on there, the easement would provide that mechanism.
Yeah.
That's what I agree.
Okay. Yeah, because I was kind of thinking too, like it looks like it's hayed today, and you probably want to continue that. So. Anybody else that would like to speak, feel free to come up to the podium.
Jim, what about the question you had about the pay?
I think let's get through the public hearing, and then, we'll have an internal.
Just a caller.
Sure. Yeah, let's switch over, Natalie. Yeah, so if there's anybody online that would like to speak, go ahead and take yourself off mute and speak up anytime. Otherwise, I'll do second to last call for the public hearing. Third and final call. And go ahead and close the public hearing.
Oh, it's from the road commission. Did we talk about it at ours? I
did, yeah.
I don't remember.
So Natalie, Jackie was just trying to pull up the road commission minutes. And so I think the recommendation to pave, and this is how I remember it, came out of road commission.
Yes.
When we discussed it at P&Z, I do tend to remember, my memory is consistent with Mark's, that I think our consensus was
To not.
not requiring it.
Okay.
Is that
And to be honest, it was so long ago, and my apologies.
the good news, Mark, is we have videos, we have recordings. So
We have videos. Thank goodness. And I guess what I would say is, since we're getting two different pieces of or two different recommendations from two different boards, maybe if we can look at the developer agreement and see if there's anything, I mean, other than the fact of what it is, suggesting hard surfacing after 75% of it is full, at least have that ready in case County Commission wants to accept this with that recommendation. They certainly don't have to. And that can absolutely be the recommendation of this board, is that P&Z doesn't think it's necessary. But I at least want to have a document for them at County Commission to have available if they want to go that route. So what did change in between now and then is that the Road Commission adopted a internal policy so that all subdivision roads are going to get a 30-foot road top, as opposed to what it used to be, so that if and when we do want to hard surface it later, or if neighbors want to get together and petition to special assess themselves, that you don't have to reconstruct that whole road to hard surface, that it's already ready to take hard surfacing. So this is sort of the first example of, or it is the first example of a subdivision where we've implemented that policy, and here we have a subdivision. So, but that's aside from a recommendation to hard surface. Yeah, and again, my memory being what it is, this board can just affirm their stance that they would like to not require hard surfacing. Don't be thrown by me including that in the packet.
thoughts from the board?
Mr. Chairman, it was one of the recommendations to be reasonable by saying that would not be required for hard surfacing until 75% was developed. Is that the way I understood it?
Correct. That was the recommendation of Road Commission. So in other words, not hard surface it up front, but at the point where 75% of the subdivision was developed.
Andy, I think I do remember that you had an opinion on this last time. Do you remember what that was?
I'm trying to find it in the minutes because I want to be accurate, and I'm not finding it at the moment. But the 75%, I think, is fair. That they have 75% occupancy, and then it would come back for a special assessment by the property owners that are there. I don't think it'd go back to the developer.
So the way it's worded in this developer agreement is that it runs with the land. So when the developer sells, then that responsibility is on the new lot owner, whatever the set of lot owners are collectively that own the properties at that time, if that makes sense.
So I know I'm trying to look through here.
There's nothing in the minutes, Mr. Chairman, on April 23rd. There's nothing in the minutes about paving. You're correct, Mark.
I asked the same question last time, and it's at 75% or when it exceeds 75%.
So in other words, so the wording in there is before a certificate of occupancy would be granted for that third lot. So in other words, if they're in the middle of developing it, you don't want to make them do the road before they start, so because you probably are going to have, you're probably going to, surface a parking lot maybe for a gas station or what have you. So you could do that at the same time that you're doing the road, potentially, bulk discount or whatever. And then before you would get your CO, that it would just, the road would have to be done before the CO is granted for that third lot.
Okay. I think I don't really like the 75% thing. It just seems a little odd. Then everybody should come in with six lots and the intent to develop 3. Like, I don't know. It feels like a weird trigger point.
We've kind of had this ongoing discussion at Road Commission for many months about what do we do about hard surfacing or managing subdivision roads. This is a little odd because it's commercial as opposed to residential, but that threshold has been thrown around a lot, that 75%.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand it more in like a residential setting where kind of every lot has an equivalent impact.
Mm-hmm.
But like lot 1 and 2 could be huge traffic generators, right? And then the third and fourth are like
very little.
Yeah, used once a month, but that's the trigger for paving. So it feels a little weird to me. But maybe it is the standard. I honestly don't know.
And that's why I worded it that way, because if you're developing something that doesn't even have any structures, then it's not developed in this context. You'd have to be developing a building that needs a CO.
Which could just be like somebody's car shop, right? Like I don't mean mechanic shop, like somebody's personal shop that they store their boat in.
It could be.
Yeah. But I'm splitting hairs probably a little bit. I don't know. Especially when then the sizes are so variable too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't mind not using the condition at this point since we don't have anything hard written into county rules. Probably something that should be needed. It's good that we talk about it between Road Commission, Planning, and Zoning. That probably needs to be an amendment. But I don't think we can enforce this condition at this time. The road gets really pounded out and is muddy, and hopefully then the landowners will say it's better for their business practice to do what is necessary to hard surface it. But right now it's not a condition to enforce. Even the 75% could be questionable.
The reason why Road Commission is using that figure is that if there's a lot of traffic going in to build something and there's heavy cement trucks, we want to wait until most of the building is done before pavement is being required. And that's why the 75% is used for the subdivisions. And then I think it just got put into this one as well. And like Natalie said, we have had a lot of discussion, and Mark has been at some of our meetings about a paving policy. And so we're struggling with it. Well, that's because our neighbors across the river, as soon as there's a development, it's paved. I mean, that's a condition of their development. That's the way they do things, but we're not doing it that way, and so we're struggling with a policy for paving or hard surfacing in subdivisions.
Other thoughts from the board?
Mr. Chairman, you're ready for a motion.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just one note on that pond. There's a 3-inch orifice at the bottom of the pond. Looks like the low flow. We could discuss offline. Like I feel like that's gonna be plugged up right away. I can give you some. Well, I'm sure you have them, but some mitigation techniques we use to keep those open. Ready for motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to recommend approval for the final plot of a short form subdivision known as St. Anthony Commercial Park and a zoning map amendment from agricultural to commercial on lots 1 and 2, block 1, and on lot 1, block 2, and from agricultural to industrial on lot 2, block 2, as the subdivision conforms to the regulations established in Article 7 of the Morton County Land Use Code and will create an opportunity for the development of local businesses.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 3.
Our third item looks so similar. This is the special use permit for the Dakota Butcher Shop, again in the northeast quarter of Section 7, Township 136 North, Range 81 West, in that very subdivision in southeast of St. Anthony. Applicant again is Rusty's Saloon and Grill LLC. So this would be lot 2, block 2 of the St. Anthony Commercial Park. Or that would be the location of this special use permit. So we're sort of in between our policies here. So the county did adopt their land use code amendment 5-270 for minor meat processing standards on August 7th officially. And this application came forward on September 4th. So it doesn't officially fall under those rules, but we obviously went through a long process to figure out what standards are appropriate for this so we can apply conditions. It's just in terms of the zoning and where it's allowed, that falls under our old rules. So those old rules that apply would be that this is allowable by a special use permit in an industrial zone. So presuming that this subdivision would be approved, then that lot would be industrial and this use would be allowable on that lot. So moving forward with that assumption that these two things go together and will probably be approved together. The applicant, they are looking to create a facility that would have a capacity of 12 beef a week, eventually maybe moving up to 15 per week processing those. They would slaughter 1 day a week and then process for 4 days a week. All the inedible waste would be stored in a temperature-controlled room and then picked up once a week and taken off-site. They would have animal drop-off, evening one day, slaughter early the next morning, and then reverse for afternoon. And so it would be pretty quick in and out, that those animals would not be sitting there for very long. There was some concern that, this is along Highway 6 and we want to make sure that animals aren't getting out accidentally crossing the highway. So they said that all the animals, when they are held, will be indoors. So there won't be any corrals and fences to be accidentally jumping. Otherwise, I would suggest we have a height suggestion for corral panels, but all the animals will be held indoors. So this is the building, this is parking, this is Rusty Trail. So this site plan, as submitted, has about 42 feet of setback from edge of the right-of-way to the building. It would need to be 50 to meet industrial setbacks, and the applicant said that they will shift it. So making sure that they meet that western setback of 50 feet for a front yard. And then their septic and room for the drain field, not getting into that wetland area or drainage easement area. In terms of trips, vehicle trips a day would be minimal, dropping off an animal, picking up your products. So 24 trips a week, and then one for the waste hauling, and then minimal number of employees that would be there. So not a lot of trips per day. Again, Missouri West Water did do a hydraulic study showing that they can provide water for this use in particular. And then Morgan Sioux can provide 3-phase power. So those are in your packet. These are just elevations. They want to get started right away, so usually we wouldn't have this, but we're kind of working on the building permit in advance, just kind of anticipating this will come to fruition. So those are that would be the side view. And then this is a lot of detail to see up here, but you have it in your packet, the floor plan, or how that would be laid out. So Western Plains Public Health, they had some recommendations about standards for septic that they don't necessarily regulate to, but they said are a very good practice. So staff has these as conditions, the recommendations of Western Plains Public Health for septic, and then just that adjustment for the 50-foot setback, that the site plan would be adjusted accordingly. So staff recommends approval with conditions. So one would be that the use must abide by the performance standards that we've established in Section 5-270, with the exception of the setback standards that we established for that. Those would be 60 feet. But again, that wasn't in place when this application came in. So just our industrial zone setback standards would apply. But for ease of referencing other standards, I'm just pointing to that section to say things like install a flow meter if they choose to stop hauling waste out, that then the standards for composting would apply, etc. So instead of repeating all those as conditions, to just reference that section. The second condition would be use of cleaning chemicals should be kept to a minimum to support septic system functioning. All solid materials should be handled as solid waste. So fine grates should be put on all floor and sink drains to catch any small particles in hair. And the use of 2 or more wastewater tanks is recommended with ample space between each tank to allow for cooling of wash water and for fat to solidify before entering the drain field. And then to update the site plan to meet that 50-foot front yard setback from the west property boundary. Those would be recommendations for conditions to put on it. Otherwise, staff is recommending approval. And I can take any questions.
Questions for Natalie?
I just have a quick question here. So between B and C on the, where you show the building, is that where the trailers would back up and then drop off the cattle?
I'm assuming so. That might be a question for the applicant. Yeah, because it's a corral. Yep. Yes.
Okay, and then that's where they hang out until butchering?
Yep.
And so you only do like half? Okay, what if someone brings in 5 and the next day it's 7? Not a big deal? I guess I could wait.
So the current configuration I have for our holding corral is a holding tub and an alley, and the alley can fit up to 3, and the holding tub can be 5 to 6, depending on size.
And it's all indoors then?
That's all indoors, yep.
So then how do you clear the manure? Just push it out with a bobcat or a skid steer or what?
And it can be pushed all toward the front, load up to a skid steer bucket.
Okay. And then that goes where?
Bismarck landfill.
Okay.
Can you give us your name just for the record?
Stephen Goda.
Thanks.
You didn't open the public hearing.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I know, I should wait.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so that's not your fault, sorry.
I have some questions for him.
Well, let's
open.
finish questions for Natalie. If everybody's done, then I'll open it and we can have you come back up.
Mr. Chair, I did have one for Natalie.
There we go.
Just to clear the room. So Natalie, it looks like the building's probably going to shift about 5 or 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it's 42, from what I could tell. There's a lot of lines. I think it's 42, so it'd be
Yeah.
like 8 feet further east.
I had to get my magnifier. I couldn't read that.
Yes, me too.
Okay, that's all I had.
Other questions for Natalie? Natalie, with the front and side yard setback variations from the newly adopted code section, would you anticipate there being any like issues, complications in the future, like in a case like this where then they come for like an expansion in the future, and that expansion
There's no room.
Yeah, like, and is that something we need to or want to address now, so that like where the building's placed and they want to add on, now it doesn't meet current standards and then they run into an issue?
No, I think, so we're approving it under the old standards. So they build it and then immediately, our standards changed. And so any additions would be, the new standards would be applicable. So they're already kind of non-conforming in a way. And if they wanted to expand, further north or south, I mean, there's more land there that could potentially subdivide a bigger piece out. Potentially, so that they could expand.
Any future expansions would be subject to the new or the then current policy.
Right.
And that, yeah.
Because ours, the county commission adopted it on the 7th. This came in on the 4th, and then we have to, we wait till it gets published and all those things. So
I just don't remember how those standards were written. If this is like, well, we're letting it go, but like immediately it's going to be non-conforming in some way. And are there any implications to that everybody should be aware of?
Yeah, and I guess I would say that they have permission to build it the way it shows, with the exception of moving east 8 feet. They can build it as it is. It's just they can't add on, northwest or south.
Okay.
unless they expanded the lot.
Thanks.
And who knows, maybe by that time we'll find out we don't need 60 feet and we'll change our ordinance. That was it was what we came up with.
Right. Okay. Anything else for Natalie? Okay, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. I always have you come back up to the mic.
For him,
Oh, sorry, for him. Yeah.
for the
Sorry.
gentleman that was up here before. I'm sorry I didn't write your name down, Stephen, right?
Yep. Steven.
Okay. Okay, I want to visit with you about your tub. You said it's a tub and alley system where the animals are going to be held.
Yes, ma'am.
Are they going to be, there's not going to be no pens?
No pens.
So how are they going to obtain water? Because you have to provide water for them.
Strap buckets along the side of the paneling itself. That's what I do at my current workplace, and that satisfies the USDA.
But they have pens.
So
You're-
the pens are offset of the alley.
Oh, okay.
In the current place I work at, just open up one gate and they funnel in up directly into the alley. So it's essentially just an alley, except it's segmented in two different parts, and then they immediately go into the alley.
So the animals can lay down if they like, if
Yes.
they'd like to.
Yes, they can.
Okay.
So perhaps I misspoke with putting the 3 in the alley. They
Yeah,
would be held there overnight. I've been told before from the plant up in Wilton that the state inspector allows them to hold them in the alley so long as they have a water bucket and wood there overnight too.
Okay. And then you said you'll have, Becky asked about manure, and so you're going to be able to clean that out and push that someplace.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Any
Stephen.
other questions while he's at the podium? Thanks. Unless you feel free to add anything else you'd like to, or in the public hearing now. Thanks.
Good evening again, Abe Ballmer with Independent Land Surveying and Engineering. So I got confused on the setback. I had it at 44 feet. We're calling the new plat, which this is gonna end up laying in St. Anthony Commercial. Natalie informed me yesterday that it was industrial for that one lot, which is the 50-foot setback. I actually moved it today. I do have a new layout. This is my latest layout that we're going to finalize here in the next couple days. It is moved back to the 50-foot setback to the east. And along with that, we have shifted the south approach a little bit further north to be more in line with that pen. So when they come down with their trailer, they can back right in. Just a suggestion and some back and forth with the hired contractor and myself on site layout and everything like that. So stand for any questions if you haven't.
Any questions for Abe?
Mr. Chair, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I appreciate that you shifted it south to be in line with the approach, because that's exactly what I was thinking.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Is this going to be a federal or a state inspected plant?
We plan on starting out under custom exempt and then moving to federal once we get our processes down and
Okay.
efficient.
So do you plan on selling any meat over the counter?
Nothing that we would be slaughtering the plant off the bat. Maybe try and have a little bit of a retail side, because if you bring in federally inspected box beef or pork, then
Right.
you're allowed to
Yep.
process it on site,
Hmm.
but then it's not available for resale outside of your building.
Correct. Yep.
but that isn't currently on the, I guess, my itinerary at the moment, because we need to focus just on the cut and wrap to make sure we can pay our bills right out the bat.
Okay. So you plan on, like if I had a beef, I bring it in and you cut and wrap it and then I take it from you,
Yes,
buy it from you, excuse me, pay the fees and, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the way the plant's designed, then you kind of have designed it so that it's going to meet the federal standards,
Yes,
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know they're kind of picky.
Any other questions for him? Okay. Well,
Is there anybody online?
yeah, let's switch it to online. Anyone online would like to speak? Go ahead and come off mute. Otherwise, I'll do second to last call for the hearing. Third and final call. And I'll close the hearing. Thoughts from the board?
Mr. Chairman, you ready for a motion?
I am.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to recommend approval to the Morton County Commission for a special use permit to allow a minor meat processing facility on Lot 2, Block 2, St. Anthony Commercial Park, as the use has adequate separation from occupied residences and will support a community economic need with the following conditions. Condition number 1, the use must abide by the performance standards established in sections 5-270 of a minor meat processing facility with the exception of the setback standards. Number 2, the use of cleaning chemicals should be kept to a minimum to support a septic system functioning. Number 3, all solid materials should be handled as a solid waste. Vine grates should be put in all floor and sink drains to catch any small particles and hair. Number 4, the use of 2 wastewater tanks is recommended with ample space between each tank to allow for cooling of wash water and for fat to solidify before entering the drain field. And condition number 5, corral fences should be at least 8 feet in height.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay,
I didn't mention this number 5 on here about the 50-foot setback.
Mr. Chairman, that's my bad. We had, I kept updating this staff report. So the one that you have printed is the update to the site plan to meet that 50-foot front yard setback. And the 8-foot got taken off because in between making the packet, I got information from the applicant that they're keeping all their animals inside. My apologies to Commissioner Zachmeyer.
Mr. Chairman, since there was no second, I would move, would take number 5 off that.
But there is a number
Oh,
5
there is
though.
a second.
There
I'm
is a
sorry.
5.
It's just different. It's a different 5.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's the only.
Can we
what's the other
amend?
one?
So the other one is update the site plan to meet the 50-foot front yard setback from the west property boundary.
Can we just amend Andy's motion
Yes,
to
you
match
could
tonight's
just-
agenda?
Yep.
Andy, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that, and then the seconder has to be okay with that. Then we gotta vote on the amendment, then we gotta vote on the final motion.
All right. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Amendment is passed. Any discussion on the motion as amended? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, thank you. Item number 4.
Our next item is the return of the carbon dioxide collection facility amendment to our land use code, section 5-300. Since last meeting, or last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we did have a subcommittee meeting, and I will go through the changes that got updated. So we changed the use title. We put in a better description of the truck transported sequestration use. Those are both on page 1. There is a revised description of the fee for study analysis. That's on page 4. There is a summary of what constitutes a major change that would result in a reapplication being necessary. That is on page 11. I changed on page 5. I changed on E, bullet E, the radius for notice to be 3 miles to match what is on, or sorry, I changed on page 10, 3 miles to match page 5. So there's, the applicant has to send advance notice when they begin construction so that people will understand that roads are going to be impacted. That used to say 1 mile, and now it says 3 to match the same notice that we send letters for the hearing. So those are both 3 miles now. And then also on page 5, based on comments, public comments I received after our packet was published for this meeting, there's a good comment about that easement holders really need to be notified, not just landowners, easement holders such as for a pipeline. I checked with the Industrial Commission, and they, in their process, don't require easement holders to be notified. So that seems to be a gap that was missing. So thank you. Thank you to the member of the public who brought that up. So on page 5, under E2, that is a new bullet requiring the applicant to research easements and send notices before construction to all easement holders on that property.
That's on page 5, you said?
Should be page 5.
There's no E2 on ours.
Okay, I'm going to put it up here so that you can read it. I'll read it verbatim. Okay, so for notice requirements, applicant shall research and identify all parties that hold easements on lands that will experience subsurface disturbance, such as drilling, trenching, or boring. Applicant must notify each easement holder at least 90 days prior to construction regarding the start date of construction and the nature of the project. So essentially give those easement holders 90 days before construction starts to be aware that this project is happening.
Natalie, can you say one more time the origin of that?
So a member of the public provided a number of comments on this draft, and one of those comments was concern for the Dapples of the world, that they, or other pipeline, water line, any easement holders on the subject property, that they wouldn't necessarily be notified that this project was going to happen.
Okay.
And that was kind of a gap that needs to be addressed somewhere.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, in the sense of like Dapple, I agree with it. I'm unfamiliar with projects being required to contact every easement owner on a property.
And that's, I mean, I bring it in this draft. We can talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about it when we.
Yes. So just to point out that those are the changes. That's the list of changes since last meeting. And so, if, obviously we're gonna have our public hearing, but I think those were all, with the exception of this, those were all kind of discussed at last meeting, went through subcommittee, those were expected changes. And yeah, so we're getting closer to a draft. Maybe by the end of this meeting, we'll be to the point where we like the draft and want to send it to county commission. Maybe there's more work, but we're just, these are the updates since last time.
Any questions for Natalie?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Go ahead, Jackie.
The 3-mile notification of landowners, that's what you said, correct?
Yes.
So is that gonna go into effect for everything else that we give notice to, or is it just gonna be for this policy?
It's just for this one.
Okay,
And it says that it's because we have our special use permit process, which is in the Article 10, that talks about that process. It says a half mile generally,
Mhm.
but in the case of these larger projects, a bigger radius probably makes sense.
Mhm.
So this says this section supersedes that
Okay.
requirement. And we probably will carry this over, as we do data centers and other things. We probably carry that 3-mile radius over, but we just changed it in this section.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Natalie, is there anything in the hopper right now from a facility builder or anything like that that's waiting to see how this comes about? Do we have anything, any application of any type toward this type of facility right now?
Not right now. I know, obviously, this is all kind of initiated by a certain application, and they're waiting until this gets done, I would assume, to apply again. But I haven't gotten
Would it
any
be
other.
the same as the last group that applied for open air facilities that anticipated to get
I would assume
Okay,
that
on
they
that.
will come forward again with an application, but they haven't, the moratorium is in place. There would be no point in bringing an application forward because we have a moratorium right now
okay.
while we develop this ordinance.
Other comments for Natalie?
Mr. Chair, I do have one on this E2. I just wanted to point out that typically those kinds of things are flagged during the one-call process when you're doing an initial survey, which should be before you even start designing anything, which should be before that 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of redundant is what I'm
And if this is
pointing out.
redundant, we can take it out.
But at the same time, it's a little bit up to the engineer/surveyor whether or not they do that one call.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up for debate.
Over notification probably didn't hurt anyone.
Yeah, and I agree. Other than, we're not, at least as written right now, we're not doing anything more than saying that they have to notify them, right?
Mhm.
We're not.
Yeah, we're just saying
requiring-
here, tell people you're doing your project.
And so are we asking for certified mail receipts or
No.
just kind of
Send
go tell them?
go tell them.
So then if they came back with one call tickets, that would suffice.
Sure.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 90 days, at least 90 days, so it could be a year before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at. I'm doing several projects that it's more than
Much
a year
further in
before.
advance. Yeah.
But a one-call ticket doesn't necessarily include the nature of the project and everything else, right? It's more a boundary that they need to come locate.
It's a boundary, but if you know you're going to be doing any drilling, trenching, or boring, you can put that in the one call ticket.
Right.
And generally, that's what we do. because generally we are doing that.
But would that in itself satisfy this as we have written, right? A one call ticket that says drilling.
We haven't gotten to that level of detail.
I think
Yeah.
it was, I think it would suffice as notification that this project is happening on this piece of property. Unless you want to require some other,
We just say notify, or what do we say?
So what is it that we're trying to accomplish with it, I guess is my question, because then with easements, each easement has a unique set of, requirements or what's allowed on the property.
I'm gonna, how about let's save that question for the public hearing,
Sure.
and then the member of the public that brought it up might want to talk about it.
I mean, in general, right, like especially on a site plan, I think it's good for us to see what utilities are on the project. It's
Yeah.
probably good. It's just more, what's our role in this,
Mhm.
and what are we doing with the information?
Well, and it's not for us, it's for that easement holder. And I guess I was surprised that the industrial commission process, according to Century Code, they say they have certain notification requirements and you have to notify landholders or landowners, nothing about notifying easement holders. So that was surprising to me.
Right, but similar, like if I'm drilling a well on my property, I don't have to notice every
Right, everybody.
communications line that's on my property.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure we're not setting a weird standard here that we don't usually get involved
100%.
Yeah,
It was-
makes sense.
No, I mean in general, it's a good, just healthy discussion.
Yes.
Right? That's all.
For sure.
I'm not saying nothing's bad about it. Okay. Where were we? Any more questions for Natalie? Is that, I think, where we're at?
I just have one quick question. Oh, sorry. One quick question. Was this online?
Yes. Not this point, because this came up in between it going online and today, but the packet was online. You pointed out, and thank you, that this wasn't in the original packet, but I reposted it
Okay, so
Yeah.
so the revised packet is on the
online.
list. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, it's number 21, page 4, number 21, shall contract with an independent qualified third party. Who's going to determine if they're independent or even if they're qualified?
That would
And is
be,
that a contract that's going to be a renewable contract every year, or somebody that we have to keep a contract with?
no, we get to determine who we want to contract with. And that would be the way any other contract would be negotiated on whatever terms we and the contractor come up with.
Yeah, and Andy, I think on the one hand, I do agree with what you're saying about kind of who determines it. On the other hand, and Maria, I'll look to you for some input. I think this is pretty typical, like in terms of engineering,
Yeah,
like
just
where you're required
engineering in general,
qualified, independent, third party, and that's
someone as a third party reviewer to give an impartial view of,
it would have to get challenged, right?
Yeah.
For somebody like Al to
Make sure they're truly independent and not a subsidiary of somebody else.
just to make sure that your ethics aren't crossing. See?
Yeah.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I had another question, page 11. Any change that the zoning administrator deems to be a major change shall require approval by the Board of County Commissioners of an amended special use permit. I don't have any problems with this, but if there's something on any type of project came and, well, we got to amend the special use permit, first thing I'd say is this brought the planning and zoning first for a recommendation again to the county commission. So if the zoning administrator deems there's a major change, yeah, no doubt about it, it eventually has to be approved by the county commission, but I think that major change should be brought to planning and zoning first for a hearing at this level. And then a recommendation to the county commission.
So, yeah, okay, so Andy, you're saying you like it as written, but send it here before it goes, send it to P&Z for a recommendation.
Yep,
And
I
ultimately,
would,
yeah.
because if that all of a sudden just came a county commission, that would be my first question. Well, did planning and zoning board aware of this to look at it?
And Mr. Chairman, I guess the syntax here maybe doesn't lead you to this conclusion, but basically meaning that it requires another county approval with a re-application. Any re-application would automatically go to this board. So it doesn't mean it's bypassing the board. It's just saying it can't be an administrative approval. It has to be a county approval.
And Natalie, would this include by default a public hearing?
A whole new, it would basically go back into another special use permit application. And which through whatever standard process that is, public hearing at P&Z recommendation, and then county approval.
And what is the actual threshold for that? You determine it's a major change?
Major or minor, yeah. And usually I err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
If it's something questionable, then I would definitely bring it, and say, hey, you just need to apply again. And in any case where if they said, that doesn't seem major to me, we can bring it back here, and then P&Z can make a recommendation, say, nope, that's minor, or yes, that's major. But it's more so convenience for any applicant if it's so minor, for me to be able to say, yes, it's fine, go ahead and change it. If it was questionable, I would usually bring it here.
Other questions for Natalie? Natalie, just one question. This is the second time we've looked at this. And it's up to us if this goes to commission, county commission from here.
Or if it needs more work. Yep.
Okay.
And we don't have a standard for land use code updates. It's how long it takes. So if this commission is happy with the draft, we can forward it. If we need a little more work, we can bring it back again.
Yeah, maybe just the only thing that crossed my mind is this is a change, a land use code change that's, well, I guess everything in Morton County is impactful to the rural agricultural community. This one maybe more so than certain others.
Typical,
and
yeah.
It's a very busy time for those folks. So understanding that an evening like this, it's challenging to come sit here. So
yes. And we've done that before, I think, where we said this isn't a great time for people to be at a public hearing about this, and have said let's skip a month and do it in whatever it is, October or something. So if the board thinks that a different month is a better time to have a hearing, we can do that too, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's good that we're continuing to discuss it, just kind of throwing it out there that
it's relevant.
Something to consider before we send it to the commission where there's no hearing or anything like that.
Yes. So. And this was advertised as a public hearing.
Right, this one, yeah. But once it goes to county commission, it's not advertised as a public hearing, right? So
right. Right. That's a good point.
Okay, anything else for Natalie? Okay, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Just switch to, and then just the only thing I'll ask is that we keep comments focused on the land use code amendment and not project specific to the extent possible. Feel free to come up to the podium.
My name is Dawn Shepard. I will try and clarify that E2, okay. How that came about is Natalie and I were talking about, there's a part in the DAC ordinance here that said the permittee shall place electrical and communication lines underground to a depth of at least 4 feet when located on private property. So I just know what has happened last year in South Dakota with the Summit Pipeline and the Dakota Access Pipeline. And there was a situation where Summit was going to encroach upon and cross over or under where the DAPL pipeline was running. And they said they were going to mitigate things with DAPL, and so that there wouldn't be any damage to the pipeline, so everything would be fine. People were worried that there would be oil leaking as well as CO2 with their plans. And so it got brought out in the public. But what happened was DAPL finally came forward to the PUC and filed a lawsuit saying that they had made repeated calls and attempts to contact Summit. They never got back to them. They wouldn't sit down with them. They wouldn't talk about mitigation things in order to protect any damage to the DAPL pipeline. So they actually filed a complaint with the South Dakota PUC and said that they were totally against the Summit pipeline at that point unless it met 12 conditions that DAPL set forth to secure safety of their pipeline, being that Summit would not meet with them. So that's what the background was on that. So I said to her, because the area that was in question and proposed for retract last year, the DAPL pipeline ran through that area. And they kept denying it, but it does, okay? And I think a neighbor came through and said, yes, it did. So they're only buried 3 to 4 feet in most areas. So, and I did look up North Dakota state law on one call. I think it is, my understanding was that it was state law required to do a one call when there's going to be excavation and boring and things like that. So being that there was, Summit had easements in South Dakota, you would have thought they would have a responsibility to contact DAPL because of this easement, but they refused to meet with them even when they were contacted. So I think Natalie and I were saying, how do we avoid something like that having DAPL come here and say, hey, nobody told me you guys were going to do this. You know, there is a shared responsibility and a shared risk and a shared cost should that pipeline get damaged, especially if they weren't notified about it and given an opportunity to speak out on it or to make conditions upon it, especially since there is a part in this draft that says those electrical lines should only be 3 to 4 feet below the surface. So she did contact, I believe, the Industrial Commission to ask them, what do you do with sequestration and what do you have in place for this sort of situation? And she found out nothing, which we were both stunned. So she thought that's kind of why she put this little additive thing. Now you can talk about it and you can decide if it should be worded, if it should be addressed at all, but I brought it forward because I know the problem that happened in South Dakota and I was trying to avoid it from happening here, being that this particular area, the DAPL was right there because we as neighbors don't want them to start construction up above it. And I know that most of the oil pipeline industry stipulates that they put in their easements with people. They have a legal interest, then they have a right of way. And they do put in the easements with the people and the landowners that they are supposed to be notified if there's going to be construction above it. So you would think the landowner would do this, but you know, things weren't happening that way in South Dakota. So we were trying to avoid that sort of issue here by somehow addressing that in the permit application, making it a requirement to just so somebody takes care of it, because you know we're only like a mile from the DAPL and where you know things would have been sequestered or even where the construction would have taken place in the facility, we don't want to have to deal with an oil leak near our home too on top of everything else because nobody notified the oil pipeline company that this was going to happen. So this is what we were trying to avoid by inserting something like this here. So that's the background and that was the situation. So you can all talk about that and decide what you want to do with it. But that's the background, that's the situation, that's what we found out, and we're trying to find a way to prevent a similar issue in Morton County. Okay, a couple other things that I did have questions on, and I wanted to make sure that just like all the others, special use permits at the beginning of this, it will stipulate that in addition to the general special use permit criteria, this is what's required, because the general criteria is still going to apply to this. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I understand. For a special use permit? Right. Okay, so that will be at the beginning of this somewhere. Okay. Yeah. But I noticed like with like the wind towers and a few other ones that were special use, it said at the very beginning of that section, like the beginning of this section, in addition to general special use permit criteria, the following shall apply for this special use. So I just wanted to make sure that this special use still had to adhere to all the other general. I just want to make sure, and that's kind of how it was stated in the rest of the land use code. So I was just wanted to.
Natalie, you're gonna.
Okay, yeah, okay. So just so someone could look into that, so the wording, so that when an applicant files here, they do know this isn't everything. They also have to abide by the general criteria also, just so that was covered. The other thing that I wish you could maybe discuss a little more so it was clear to us was when there is a dedicated on-site energy generation facility there. I think it was pretty clear if it was like natural gas.
Hey, Don, can you just, do you have it in front, like, it would be helpful for me, like, what you're talking about now, do you have the page number that it's on? Sorry.
I don't know where she's talking either.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Sorry, I'm making it difficult, but just
No, that's
easier for
okay.
me to follow along.
Sure. Had to do with the application materials, I believe. Okay, it would be page 3, 7, number 8, where it's talking about the projected rate of power consumption. And then you go down to A, it says, if the project includes a dedicated power generation facility, describe the type of power and generation used. So that's pretty set there. And then, okay, there was someplace else where it said that in the application, they had to show a letter, like if it was natural gas they were going to use. Okay, that was it was actually in part 8. A description of the means of which power will be supplied, include a written confirmation from a power provider that the provider has or will have by the time project construction is complete the capacity to supply that. So that kind of covers natural gas or other ones. So, but this is the only place I really see anything about a dedicated facility, energy facility. So my question was, because Retract at one time had said, well, what if we use solar power? Can we use that instead? Or even if they wanted to tap into wind power. So wind power is already regulated and it's already got an ordinance and it's already got terms and conditions and permits. The solar doesn't. I know you're working, I know Natalie's working on it. So if they wanted to use a solar array for their facility, for powering their facility, I just wanted to clarify, would it have to be on a solar farm that's in a solar arrangement, an array that is already completed and done and permitted in accordance with the ordinances that will be done by that time? Or could they just go out there and start putting in solar panels everywhere, if, before that's done? And if they did, what guidelines would it be having to follow? Because we're not making them, permit the energy facility separately as a, conversion facility. It's just part of the overall plant facility as one. So I just was curious as to how that would be addressed if, once this gets passed and say the solar ordinance isn't passed, but they want to use solar energy, are they allowed to just go out and start putting up solar panels everywhere without any rules or guidance or ordinances? So if the commission could address that, I would appreciate it. Let's see.
Yeah, I would think so.
Don, I think just on that one, if we can, let's try to get through it quick. Now, I'm assuming a solar farm today would require a special use permit. And I don't know if, I mean, obviously a single solar panel on a house doesn't, but is there a threshold defined?
Right, so I am working on the solar ordinance, and I would like to really have that done before this goes forward for that very reason, but at the moment, because solar is an energy conversion facility, even if we didn't have standards in the land use code, it still has to go through a special use permitting process. And you know, this facility, if it's a direct air capture, it is also going through a special use permit process where we can evaluate the use and apply standards and put conditions on it. And in the case where we would have a use where we don't have a defined set of standards for it, we would just have a very long list of conditions that we would put on it. And whether those conditions are in a special use permit for a solar facility or in a special use permit for a DAC facility that also has solar, it would be this long list of conditions. It's just under one permit instead of under two permits, if that makes sense. That we have the ability already, like if they came, if Retract came in and decided they want to use solar power for their facility, we can say, here's how the rows need to be spaced. You have to do a glare analysis. You have to have stormwater plan. We can put all those conditions on it. And so it's not as if they just get to do what they want, because they have to go through this special use permit process, whether it's part of a DAC facility or a standalone solar facility. Either way, we do a review and we can apply conditions that will shape that use to fit the place that they're asking to go, if that makes sense.
Okay. Another area that I'm representing all our neighbors and farmers in the fields tonight with Melissa. She came in from bailing tonight and put her husband to work. Is the part that was taken out on the application and form standards. It was on page 5, and it was letter F, I believe. Okay, it was in between 4 and 5. It was taken out, and I think it should be put back in. We think it should be put back in because we don't want to have to drive past a facility that doesn't have something in front of it that makes us, every time we drive by, to and from work, to and from home, and realize that there's this giant industry out there with parking lots and facilities and buildings and nothing in front of it it's basically completely changing the natural landscape and the visual environment for us in our neighborhood. And we feel that there should be some kind of tree and shrubbery around it. I saw the explanation about, well, trees don't go well in North Dakota. Well, they do in cropland, and that's where most of these facilities are going to try and be permitted to go, is in cropland. We bought the farm that we bought, there wasn't hardly any, there were no new trees, just old tree growths dying. And we have cropland around it, and we planted seedlings in the cropland through Farming Service Agency. And within 4 years, they were 7 to 8 feet tall. Cropland is very well fertilized and these trees grow. And we didn't water them. It was just, they grew. And any kind of barrier is better than no barrier. When you're driving by and you live in a rural area, you want to see something rural just for your mindset to not get angry every time you drive past there and have to look at this thing out in the open. I came in and I was looking at this picture on the wall and all those buildings in the middle, and look at all the beautiful evergreen trees around them. I mean, okay, it doesn't necessarily cover it up. It's not necessary, but it's still more pleasant to drive by something like that and then nothing at all. So I think I speak for everybody in rural Morton County that would have to live near one of these things, that we want some kind of forage, bufferage around it, trees. And so we would ask that what was pulled out of there would be put back in. If they work with the Soil Conservation District and USDA, they can take soil samples, they can see what kind of trees grow best, which kind of trees grow the fastest. And like I said, even 8 to 10 feet trees, you know, in 4 years is better than nothing at all when we're driving past that. So we would ask that the planning and zoning would reconsider and please try and keep us a little bit less stressed every time we would have to drive by a facility with giant parking lot and giant facilities and giant machinery everywhere out there that have nothing to do with farming. So that was another issue. And another one was, I did not see anywhere in here where they had to include an environmental impact assessment. And I looked under the existing Morton County land use code for agricultural districts. And it says in there that, let's see, it's section 2-030, agricultural district regulations, and they say they do encourage economic diversification in agricultural areas, but they also say to discourage any use which, because of its character, size, or location, would interfere with existing ag uses, create a nuisance, or create a negative environmental impact. Now, I know that there's things in here about the Department of Air Quality and the water usage, stormwater runoff, things like that. But we're looking more at how is it going to affect the wildlife in the area? How is it going to affect crops in the area when they're taking CO2 out of the air? How is that going to affect our crops? How is it going, the increased traffic and noise going to affect the deer? We have antelope in our area. We're under a bird migratory, location. We want to know how all that noise and how that construction and how that 24/7 and even the pollinators, 10, 20 years since wind towers have been put up, and now there's studies worldwide showing how many pollinators are being killed. I mean, 1.5 tons on each wind blade of pollinators. Our ecosystem is going to go crazy and it's just going to collapse soon. And these direct air capture facilities use these huge giant fans. And so I'm thinking, okay, they're going to be sucking in bees and butterflies and birds and everything in there too. So we are asking that a environmental impact assessment, if they are going to be able to prove it is not going to create a negative environmental impact, it's obvious that they have to have some kind of environmental impact assessment done in those areas on the application. So we would ask that be added to the list of requirements. And then the last thing I had was, we did talk, and I know the emergency management manager talked last time, and we talked about evacuation plans and emergency plans for the neighborhood and people. But I was not sure what was decided as far, I think it's stipulated in here that it was up to him what had to be in the emergency plan. And we would like to ask that an evacuation plan and notification for residents would actually be required as part of the emergency plan rather than an option. I've watched a lot of testimonies from the firefighters and first aid, and that were down in Satartia, Mississippi, when there was a CO2 leak. And one of the main things they said is that the company that had that CO2 leak had a horrible, horrible evacuation plan for people and rescue plan for people should something like this happen. And he said if any neighborhood or any community is going to put something like this together, he said make sure that that's one of the top priority things and that it is done accurately and correctly in order to save lives. So I would ask that would be required as part of the emergency plan rather than just an option. Any questions on any of those topics?
Questions for Don? Don, just so I understood that last one. So it was the evacuation portion that you
if there is a leak, a notification. I know he talked about not being able to notify people, or what evacuation way is somebody going to come out, and if he said it's probably be a 15-minute notice before we could get, it would get to us. Well, if you're downhill from these things, which most of us are, and that CO2 settles down low, is somebody going to come and check on us and rescue us and get us out of there before permanent damage is done to our health and our lives if we are unable to get out of ourselves? And if we are notified about it, telling us how to get out of there, especially like if our vehicles don't start, how are we going to get out? So. Thanks.
Thanks, Don. Patrick, you want to maybe address that last point while it's fresh?
Mr. Chair and Commission, it's definitely a very good point that she brings up. I think just by the nature of the facility, it would certainly be something that we would evaluate and definitely include in plan, emergency operations plan. There is some verbiage, I believe, in the plan or in the in what's being presented that the emergency operations plan is to be shared with, local response agencies, specifically fire, EMS, law enforcement. They all have a piece and a say in that, and I think that's wise. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
It be shared with the people then, so they got a copy of the plan.
absolutely, yeah. It's all of our plans are public record. Yep.
Any questions while he's at the podium? Board? Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, Nevi, you switch it back?
It's a lot to keep track of, so I don't mind. If you don't mind me telling you.
And again, if anyone is online calling in, go ahead and unmute and speak up if you'd like during the public hearing. So I'll do a second call for the public hearing.
Hi, Melissa Fries. Just one quick question. As far as like our animals and stuff, I know we raise cattle and right now cattle are, they're doing good. When carbon knocks out all my herd, whose liability that is that? And also I've got a few expensive horses that I saved for a very long time. Who's going to pay me back for that? Just kind of something I want to bring up, I guess, as far as liability, because I know I'm not going to get them all in the trailer and out of there before that shit happens. So sorry. So that's just something I wanted to bring up as far as how do we handle that. I did talk to my insurance guy today because I knew I was coming here and I just brought it up and I said, would that cover if that wiped out our herd or our horses? And he said, no, that's natural disasters. Carbon is not a natural disaster. So they won't even cover that. And that's just my agent, I guess, but I don't know as far as others, but just something I wanted to bring up. Liability wise.
Well, Chairman, on liability, quite often that when it gets to liability, these things border what we call civil laws.
Okay.
And so, for example, if your horses or cows are damaged, then you'll have to show neglect on whoever the causation factor could be attested to. So you would file a lawsuit.
Okay.
And that'd be probably the appropriate way that these things are handled right now. I don't know how we could address liability as a board here or within the confines of that, but you do have an avenue, and everybody has a pretty strong avenue when somebody does something due to neglect, and of course there's different levels of neglect.
Sure.
Then you can go back and say, okay, this open air capture thing did this here in the leak, and I lost 25 head of cattle due to the fact that they didn't do so and so to protect me, or just back they could have an absolute liability due to the fact that occurred on their property. So. But then this would be something that the courts would have to determine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll do another second to last call for the public hearing. Third and final call. And I'll close the hearing. Discussion from the board.
Chairman, that is a majority is focused on open air capture.
Yes.
I kind of made a comment when we had this one layout. Open air capture means you put fans or whatever have you in a place within a certain confine within 1 million acres of open air. And I'm not a scientist, but I think in logical reasoning that to capture the carbon dioxide or monoxide to whatever, not monoxide, carbon dioxide to be effective, you got to have 10,000 of these things in the state of North Dakota. And when I questioned that guy, what's their primary focus? What's the driver? Tax credits. Tax credits. So I don't know. I think we have to be very cautious, and I think it's good to have these things in place, whatever have you. But to come in and to tell people that we're going to put this capture, we're going to get a bunch of carbon out of the air by putting up a fan on a 15, 30 acre area, and we're going to do all this capturing. I've done some research on this, so I just can't buy into it, and I guess we just proceed on. And the time comes when they want to make an application, fine, but I just have a hard time connecting what open air capture is and the things that we're trying to achieve here. I'm not sure how things coincide to be equitable to what the carbon capture people are trying to do. Just my thoughts individually.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to respond to one comment as far as an evacuation plan. So all the locations are different. Each project is different. Once they've done their plume study and there's a model that's run for each of the different scenarios that could occur on site, then we have an idea of how far and at what concentrations that CO2 would go, so that would lend itself better to an evacuation plan, emergency management plan. It would be difficult to say up front exactly how you should structure that plan because we don't know what they did do a plume model, but I'm saying if it was some other applicant, in a different site with different conditions, that plume model study is going to inform what the evacuation plan looks like. And so, that's definitely going to be a component of an emergency operations plan is what is your evacuation plan for as far as this plume goes at lethal concentrations or unhealthy concentrations. And so, it's kind of case by case based on that model, but that's what, and the emergency evacuation or management plan from this last application, it did go online. They had to submit it with their application and it went online, and anybody can access that if they want to look at it. If they had, oh, hey, you missed these parts, or why don't you talk about this? That can all be brought up at the public hearing. The public has an opportunity to review that plan and say, here's what we think is missing during the application process before it even gets an approval. So just so everybody knows that it would go online because it has to be submitted with the application.
That's
The emergency management plan, and it was over 100 pages. And again, all that detail can be reviewed by any member of the public and comments made during the public hearing process. So, yeah, and then anything in our standards for Article 10, they apply without having to say it again. They apply to any special use permit. and I know it's nerve wracking, but it applies. It does apply. So we don't have to say it again. Yeah, that was it. I just wanted to respond to the questions that came up.
Go ahead, Becky.
Okay, when do you bring up, there's the thought that there's going to be 20 to 40 full-time employees? I don't know if that's still
I don't
true
remember
or
the
whatever.
numbers.
Okay,
They
so
did give them to us.
What's the plan for where are these people going to live? I mean, the driving to work, I mean, are they going to have little tent camps? What can Hebron, New Salem, Glen Allen, can they handle all that? I mean, it took how many years for Chris to get a daycare center in Hebron? I mean, just getting these small towns, can they handle all that? And what if it's 40 families? All of a sudden they're here. It's like, yay,
The applicant, if that's a separate use, like a work camp situation, we have an application for that too. If they want to do trailers or set up. But I mean, they're talking about permanent employees.
Yes, I'm talking about permanent employees, not the construction workers, which will be, who knows, maybe 100 at a time and then 10 and whatever, that goes back and forth, but the permanent employees, what if they bring their families?
That doesn't have anything to do with this, Becky.
Okay, well,
That
that's what I was
doesn't have anything
wondering,
to do about the ordinance.
but it is something that we should consider for the future.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that's something that they'll
figure it out.
They'll have to
It's
figure it out.
It's ultimately something that we don't
address that. I mean, that's the economy. I mean, there's people coming and going for work all the time, and they have to find places to live. And
you don't build a new daycare center until you have the need
demand.
for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like daycare stuff, we always need more daycare, and we always need more affordable housing. Yeah, it's a perennial problem.
They're dealing with that in Ellendale. I mean, because we went to see that facility, and they are dealing with it.
They had this is just like an insane fact that I have to just say because I can't even believe it. Like Ellendale expected all this growth before, so they put in infrastructure, city infrastructure, sewer, water, out to the edge of town, and the development never came, but they've been cleaning those lines out since the 90s, and bam, it's there. It was ready for new housing. Blows my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Natalie, I do have one thing. Okay, maybe it's going to be a couple things, but just touching on that E2 thing again, but do we have it? I can't seem to find it anywhere because my eyes aren't working very well, but do we have anywhere in here that they have to submit some sort of plat or something from a registered land surveyor?
Yes.
Site plan
I'll find
requirement,
it.
right?
It's in the site plan requirements?
Yeah.
Yes. I'll find it for you so that because I want us to feel comfortable about this.
I thought so, because in that plat, we would also require that all the easement documents be recorded.
Easement documents be recorded? You mean
Yeah,
like
the number, like this easement runs to.
Oh, okay,
we're
okay.
gonna call out this
Shown
stuff.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so it's not a plat. We asked for a site plan. So this is on page 2. Detailed site plan with all project components, including but not limited to. So we say location of existing and proposed utility lines, water, electrical, etc. We could say.
I'm just wondering if that's somewhere where we could include something about these easements.
The only thing is then, so we've identified them, it doesn't mean they get noticed.
So,
Right, but I'm getting to that part.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure, that they would have to put it on the site plan.
Yes.
Any easement, and then we could say here, notify these, because this is an old line that nobody uses, like
Yes.
that.
Or similar to like a solicitation of views process where we have under Oh, let's see, what page is this on? Page 4. So we've got, you know, a letter from the Corps, a letter from the DEQ, a letter from the DWR.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe in there is where you put something from the letter from these easement holders
Mm-hmm.
saying that they are aware of the project and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that a lot.
Because then if they have responded, then you know that they are
Okay with it.
or not.
Or whatever they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So Maria, I think that's a really good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
And so the only difference that I had written down,
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you think about, like, requiring that letter from what I'm calling like major easement holders, and that can be maybe Natalie's discretion, but then also if all known easements are shown on the site plan, we can have that discussion. Just thinking like a communications line easement from 1965.
Right.
That's right. Like, that's not going to be something that we even care about anymore because nobody uses that phone line and it's been abandoned.
I like the idea of major easements of record.
And then it can be at your discretion,
Mm-hmm.
but also if it comes to us, we can have the discussion and say, well, Natalie didn't think DAPL was a major easement, so.
And then I can get my E&O insurance for negligence or whatever.
Because to like Deb's point, you know, when the oil boom was going boom, you know, there was lots of easements being filed on a daily basis
Yes,
that were not
and you might
getting
not
picked
know.
up by a one-call process or any other process.
Yeah.
So if you go to the courthouse and search for that easement documents, you'll find that, hey, so-and-so put a line across here and we didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like I almost wonder, okay, so major easements of record need to be on the site plan with their document number. And then we can tell them which ones they need to notify, maybe.
So I would say easements of record shown on the site plan, and then the notification. And
I would say notify them anyway.
Yeah, but I think we're saying the same thing.
Probably.
That we want a letter of acknowledgement similar to SOV process.
Similar to an SOV process.
From the
letter
majors.
back from the majors, like say your DAPLs of the world or your WBIs of the world that say, yes, we have this line going on here. We need to know of any other things that you're going to do in this vicinity.
Mm-hmm. I just wonder about the timing of those because let's say, well, for one, when you have your application, it's not actually happening yet if you're just at application stage. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, maybe a point later where they must notify, or we need acknowledgement letters back before you can get your building permit or something like that.
So, and I think now it can be, and Maria, I want you to clarify this, but I think it can be early in the process.
Mm-hmm.
It can almost be like, generally, here's what's occurring on this property that these people have an easement on.
Mm-hmm.
And we would look for a letter back from a DAPL, whoever, saying, acknowledging that they do have infrastructure and sort of laying out what their expectations are. Is
Right,
that
that's
like
basically what they do.
I just wonder if we, you know, it's like if we say your application's not complete till you get this, what if they never receive a letter back? I mean, we can't really hold up their application just because somebody didn't respond.
I think it would be at our discretion, right? So if it's, again, like, depending what it is.
And it should be documented within, you know, whoever's doing these SOV letters, if you want to call them that we didn't get a response from these folks, you know, somehow.
Yeah.
But also a difference if there's a major gas line on the property and all work is outside of the easement and we never hear back. Maybe
Sure.
it's kind of like,
Not a big deal.
well, you're crossing through the easement. We're not comfortable with this going forward until we have some confirmation. Like, I think it can be discretionary, but I think if we only require notification, then to this story that Don gave, like, it sounds like they were being kind of sneaky with it anyway, then what exactly does us checking the box that, well, some notification was sent? I don't know if that,
Does that help?
like, if we're concerned about it, I want to see a letter.
I want to see a letter specifically from WBI that says, yes, we have
That
a line
says, yes, we're aware. And
yes, it's 4 feet deep. And no, you cannot do anything on top of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And again, and I like that way of doing it, but again, if we put it in here, we need to know when we need it by. And what is the lever in the process that either goes or doesn't go if we don't get it by a certain time, you know what I'm saying? Because when we're doing a policy about it, I have to know what can I let them move forward with or not move forward with, you know, like, in other words, do you need these, is that another check on the application checklist and say you must have these letters in order for your application to be complete?
I think that could be up for debate, really.
Because to me, that seems like a high bar.
I think our before we give final approval,
Mhm.
we want letters back on major utilities. If they come without them, we can approve it, or we can say you didn't bring us the letters.
Yeah.
We need the letters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that fits or what everybody else thinks. Like an SOV would give, when they would mail it, it would give a 30 days to hear back.
Oh, sure. If we say, you know, a 30-day notice period is our acceptable threshold to say, if you have sent the letter and they have not responded to you within 30 days, then we can move forward.
Yeah, it's a similar process with the SOVs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Generally, we give them 30 days to respond, and sometimes it's 45, depending on, you know, time of year.
Okay. And then I guess I wonder if they do that before the application, and you know how sometimes we look at a site plan and we say, we don't like this, or we'd want you to move this, then the nature of the project changes, then you gotta send another letter. You know what I mean?
I think we can base it off the first one, right? Like, I think that this needs to be really high level. Like, they're sending the easement holder a simple letter giving the legal description of the land, a general overview of the work that's planned to occur, and then the response. I mean, and we'd be soliciting their views on the project and things that should be anticipated. So that letter back is going to say any work within the easement requires X, Y, or Z, and then we can decide, or it's really on them. It's not.
Yeah, no, 100%. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like the whole point is for them to be aware.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you made them aware before the application, and then they can follow up with you.
And we made sure that they were aware.
And quite often when you're sending out these letters, you know, you can send them certified mail. You can take pictures of the envelopes, you know, it's proof that you sent it out, really.
Yeah.
And then you get proof that you've gotten it back, and it's part of your records.
I like that a lot. Okay, so I'm going to suggest, forget this thing. I'm just going to put it.
I would just say, you know,
I'm gonna
revise
get rid of
it
it
a little bit and move it over.
I'm going to say it's just, this is one of the components of your application. So in the same way we're asking for letters from, you know, DEQ and, you know, water, state water, you know, you need these letters as well. Are we good with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a application component. Okay.
The only thing would be the major easement holder. If we're doing all easements, and how, if you want, I'll leave it up to, I think we can leave it up to Natalie how to write that.
So
yeah.
But
it's like,
because I mean, the thing, when we say easement, you know, it might be someone who gets to walk across or drive across. It's like, okay, don't care.
Don't worry about
Utility, major utility easement, or infrastructure, major infrastructure easement.
Yeah, I would say that, because, you know, you might find some kind of a weird drainage easement from 1955 that you didn't even know was major or something.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Sounds good. That's checked off the box.
Natalie, can you touch on the tree?
Yep.
What was the discussion there?
And this, honestly, so this was, when we did our subcommittee, this is, you know, number 5 here. That's the wording. We had it in there for a while, and then as I was researching solar facilities, it seemed like a best practice that we're not requiring trees around solar because they're not that tall. And I mean, the DAC stuff, also not super tall, not as short as a solar panel, but also not super tall. And you know that it's like acres and acres, and how many trees are you putting up, and how much are you actually mitigating the visual impact of this? Because it's like, it goes, you know, like solar goes for I don't want to say miles, maybe it is miles, you know,
Mhm.
a long way. So, I mean, if you're driving or you're looking, it's like you can see what's past those trees. What sense does it make if the point of the trees is to actually mitigate the visual impact? You're not actually mitigating it. And so, you know, in thinking about how we apply standards to all these industrial uses, and that they probably should kind of be similar to one another. You know, and we think about, okay, when the data center comes, are trees actually going to mitigate that visual impact? And maybe the answer is yes. And we just say for all of these, you put your trees in. You just do. And we can go either way. I can see it both ways. I took it out. I mentioned that at that meeting, and there wasn't a big discussion about it, but we can just as easily put it back in. And this is the wording so that we have it, you know, if we want to add it right back in.
When I saw several solar farms down south when we went to Utah and Arizona, there was no trees around. Because they're huge facilities.
Right,
And
you
there
can
was,
see 'em
there's
no
no
matter
way
what.
you could put trees around.
Yeah, and it's the same.
All those.
I mean, it's the same with this. You're gonna see it. Yeah, and you know.
So Natalie, I think my initial thought, what I'd like to see here is, because this is the land use code, this isn't site specific, right? Like could we include something that gives this board, and I think we have it by default anyway when we come to the actual application, but could we spell something out in here that kind of forewarns them that the board may at their discretion require a vegetative buffer
Yes.
around the site? Then we can,
Yep.
because even here we're saying a light vegetative buffer,
And maybe
what
we
is that?
want to, maybe we define that in
two
the code.
Paragona per it's too, but because in some cases, if two conifer rows and a shrub row would very well conceal a site, and it's only a 40-acre site, I think it would make sense. Yeah, if it's 10,000 acres of something, more challenging.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. I don't think you can be too specific. You have to have some versatility here and discretionary to leave it up to the different varying circumstances. And I think what you're suggesting here would be practical.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot, especially because depending on the site, you know, maybe you want to buffer one part of it because that's the part that's sticking out, and then the rest is behind a hill or something. It's like, okay, do that part, or maybe we want a heavy buffer, and we do define in the code light, medium, and heavy buffers. You know, trees and shrubs per feet per. You know, we do define that, but I like that a lot because then it tips off the applicant like there could be a significant cost here, and just the way it is, you know.
So we would just say vegetative buffer, and kind of doesn't not
Right.
light, medium.
The board at their discretion may require a vegetative buffer to mitigate visual impacts,
Yeah.
something like that.
So I guess my only other thought, I don't know, leave it up to you. Like, should that say vegetative buffer up to a certain width around the perimeter, or just leave it gray?
I would just say, here's your warning. We might require a vegetative buffer
Perfect.
because it's not. It may vary depending on the site.
Yeah, and location on the site.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So we'll add it back in with that wording.
Okay.
Okay.
So what about, Mr. Chairman, the part about the environmental assessment that Dawn mentioned, Natalie?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to have a discussion about this, and with our engineers who probably deal with this on a regular basis. When I think of EIR or EIS, yeah, studies are expensive, the assessment's less. So, you know, it's so much. It seems to me so much for federal dollars and federal projects, and it's so specific to that, and also very often geared more to urban, like hazards to people health. You know what I mean? Brownfield sites and so forth. And so, I guess we have our stormwater management, so we kind of deal with the water portion of health, or at least impact. DEQ would step in if there's emissions, you know, in the air, so that's kind of covered. And so we're kind of talking about wildlife, and I have a message into Game and Fish to ask them, are they comfortable with this more consultative method, and have them review and say, here's our recommendations, instead of saying, we have something in our code that says you will do what Game and Fish tells you to mitigate. And they are out for conferences this week, so I didn't get any response back from them yet. So I think that's kind of the question, maybe, like, what additional benefit, or, what do we want to achieve with an environmental assessment? What are our enforcement mechanisms, or what are our rules about how we ask them to mitigate? Because if you ask them to do a study and it's just for funsies, but if you're going to do a study, you probably should have some standards about how you mitigate based on the results of that study.
Mr. Chairman, Natalie, isn't that covered on page 9, letter N?
Right. Yeah, and they take an inventory for species, but again, this is like consultative, where they let us know what the impacts could or would be. And I guess Dawn, I didn't know if Dawn was concerned about things other than wildlife, if there's more environmental concerns beyond stormwater emissions and wildlife that we would address through an environmental impact assessment.
This is what I was looking at. What
Right.
talking about here, and it does say they're taking this inventory and they're assessing the inventory, but they're not telling us what could potentially harm this.
The impact. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, so
They didn't know that when they first permitted them. And these have been around for a couple of years now. There are some around the world that they can look and see if any of them are affecting the environmental damage as far as wildlife.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, okay, I guess to sum up what I think you're saying into the microphone, that what we have in here right now on page 9 is an inventory of what's there, but it doesn't talk about what the potential impact of the project would be on that inventory. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So
and that's what I was just going to say too, is maybe as part of that, you require some kind of, it's up for discussion, like maybe as part of that, you require some sort of mitigation plan going forward or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to word it.
So maybe we increase that to something like 90 days prior to the start of construction, and that we do a review of that survey and make a determination if mitigation measures will be required. That's tough though, because then it's just like you're so far into the project by that point, and what is the cost of this?
That, and at the same time, I'd almost leave it up to the experts, who are the biologists, not me as an engineer.
Right.
So.
Right.
So, I mean, in a lot of cases, if there are federal dollars, and I don't know how these tax credits work in this case, but it typically is a federal tie that requires at least usually an environmental assessment, which is a lesser study, or an environmental impact statement, which is an EIS. Mm-hmm. I think one of the challenges I have is when those are required as part of that federal process, in the end, for an EIS, it requires a FONSI. It's called the finding of no significant impact. And that's required, like in this sense, it would be required to unlock the dollars, or to get that. Or we don't hold that card. So, and the FONSI comes from the lead federal agency, and we don't have, so we're missing some of those parts. We could still do an environmental assessment, have a team do that, but they are lengthy, and generally it's going to, I think we should have.
And generally for review time, it would take like probably a team of people to review one. An EA can be this thick, an EIS can be this thick.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
So,
and then I guess my point is, okay, so when you do that, then what was it for? Because what actions do you take based on what's in it?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because
And they're only going to come, like, these are only going to focus on endangered or threatened species in terms of like the wildlife that, and maybe I'm
as opposed
wrong.
to all
Like,
species.
it's not going to touch on
I
like
don't think that it'll touch all species.
pollinators or that's not, it's going to be certain bats,
Mhm.
whooping cranes,
Piping plover.
piping plover,
Yeah.
should be, yeah.
And there won't be any piping plover there because there's not enough water.
Mhm.
And they like sand beaches to nest.
But there are certain butterflies.
Certain butterflies, yeah.
We only
Dakota
have one
skipper.
in North Dakota, the butterfly.
Oh, like
the Dakota skipper.
endangered?
The Dakota skipper is the only butterfly / moth.
Is that the blue one, or what is that?
No, it's kind of a grayish yellow. That's the only one.
Mhm.
We have one plant that's endangered. That's the prairie fringed orchid, and that's all in the southeastern part of the state.
Interesting.
So, you know, I dealing with pesticides, I know which ones of those that we're we have issues.
Yeah.
with. And we do have issues with the bats. Jesse, you mentioned the bats because when we were putting the bridge on the Stark Bridge, we couldn't take it down until the bats were gone.
We had one in the office the other day, a little bat.
Yeah, I heard.
So I think, like, big picture, I think having something in here that, again, probably discretionary, we have some ability if we think there's a high risk of impacts, like that we bring in the right players. Just, you know, generally when we're talking specifically the terms environmental studies, those are with federal dollars.
They're
federal
so
ties, maybe
defined
state.
by federal, regulations.
And I think we would have to be careful, like
How
if
we
we're
word
apply-
it.
Well, and if we're applying it here, there are other, like, I don't think we would want to apply this only to these DAC because
Oh,
of this
100%.
yeah, wind farms and
Yes.
a lot of other things. So definitely a point well taken, Don, and I agree with the concerns.
More looking at what is on the books, you know, saying that it cannot create a negative environmental impact, and it's talking about interfering with existing agricultural uses, a nuisance for rural residents. So
Yeah.
thinking more of its effect on the crops, on the hay, on the grass, on the wildlife in the area, their routine, their pattern of coming and going. You know, that is what, you know, we're reading this as.
So again, probably something we have to take some discretion because a lot of these, I think if we put it in here, I don't know that we'd even have something back that addresses those things.
Right.
Certainly, like impacts to crops. I don't know if that's
not going to be
that's
part
not
of
even
it.
studied. Yeah, science
It would
probably.
get very highly complicated.
Right.
But it's
It would have a
something that
level of
allows us to-
complication that doesn't even apply to what we're trying to measure, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we have other items we want to?
Well, Mr. Chair, only comment, you know, I don't think we could turn over to the county commission yet by this discussion here, so I think we need to have Natalie go back and she's taking a lot of notes to make certain revisions, things, and have to look at it again.
And that, Natalie, I don't know. I guess let's build on real quick. Again, leave it to your discretion with like harvest season and things like that. If we're going to bring this back again in
And
September,
especially, we have quite a few applications coming that are going to be big, probably.
Yeah.
So
right?
I maybe wouldn't necessarily put this on an agenda where we have some other very complicated items. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it might be, my discretion when it comes back.
We're not on a
appreciated.
time constraint here anyway, are we?
No.
Well, we kind of,
okay.
the commission kind of said the first of the year, didn't we, Andy?
Yeah.
That we hoped that it would be done?
And I think, here's what I think. So we're not going to push it off to December. It's probably going to be October. And maybe by then I can have the solar part ready. I'm sorry, I have been working on it. I was like, it is not fully baked to bring forward. So hopefully maybe we'd have then that solar component that really goes along with this, and then we can review that too. So, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, data collection's becoming the hot topic now. Burley County wants to try to ban them. And there's
You mean
one-
data centers?
Data, Didn't I say
Data
that?
set, no, you didn't. You said data collection.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
That's what data set, they're using big data.
And I've had contact with a landowner down by St. Anthony that one could be ending up down in that area. And Chairman Boehm wants to get this moving. And at some point, if we delay on small things, it's going to be argued that it's an unnecessary delay, or we're going to try to make it too restrictive that it would never survive a court challenge. Some of the agricultural questions, I was at the meeting in Hebron when Agricultural Commissioner Goering stood up and said these things are not going to impact ag. That they take so little carbon dioxide out of the air that it doesn't even doesn't do anything.
That's just what I said.
That it's a farce of the federal dollars, but they're out there. And at that time, Governor Burgum, who is now Interior Secretary Burgum, supported these. And that if this type of project would end up before the Industrial Commission, it will get approved. And even possibly that the county commission would be overruled. That they would look at it to see if the county's regulations were at least reasonable. And I thought he'd be all politically correct and how politicians could get to be, and let's have a group hug. But he wasn't. He was blunt. The regulations have got to be fair. County commission will be listened to, but is not the deciding factor. And if it does with the industrial commission, it will get approved, and he would vote for it. He's the ag commissioner. If there's something massively detrimental to ag, it should be being brought out by now. I think we need to get this moving faster too, because data centers is going to be the data collection. That's going to be the next one. And right now, Commissioner Buckley, I didn't go to Ellendale. Just listening to county commissioners at Association of Counties. Right now, everybody's pretty impressed with the amount of growth in that project in Ellendale. But then they warned, don't let a project do what happened in Williams. As far as that,
Too close to the.
and they didn't do the noise, that things weren't done correctly.
If you look at that map, it's ridiculously close. I mean, I don't even know how that happened. Yeah.
So there's some changes recommended now. Now that would put us into September. I think that these changes, we got to have another public hearing in October. We've got to keep this moving, or eventually it's going to be you guys can't make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, after tonight's meeting, I think the changes are pretty straightforward. So my hope would be that,
Very little to do on this.
Yeah, totally full meeting.
Mhm.
I think, and with harvest, things like that, maybe pushing to October is
Well,
okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask people in the room, do you think September is still a very rough time in terms of harvest? So like end of September? Because I think my October meeting's going to be a fuller agenda. So September would be nice, but I don't want to make it so that people can't be here.
I would think October would be safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we just say we're going to bring it in October, and that's just the way it is.
Well, if we see it in October,
But we're going to bring it back in September with the changes, correct?
Oh, that wasn't my understanding. I thought we were going to bring it back in October.
We can. I guess.
We can.
The concept was.
Especially, there's so little. There's so little that's changing. I feel like it's so minor.
We can look at this again in September.
Yeah.
Good too.
And move it on to commission in
Okay.
October.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Let's do it. Yep, let's do that then. We'll bring it back next month with, these are so minor,
Yeah.
these changes.
Okay.
Okay.
And let's
Done.
see.
And then all I need to do is look at my tiny little budget and make a recommendation to move it to county commission.
Did we officially close it?
I did, yeah. I was trying to think the same thing, Andy, and I'm pretty sure I did, yeah. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, ladies.
Thanks for coming.
Good night.
Get out of here.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve Natalie's plan here for her budget for the 2026 fiscal year. Yeah. Sure.
I'll second that. It seems very appropriate.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Should have a roll call.
Roll call.
Money.
Seeing any, I'll do roll call. Buckley.
Yes.
Burr.
Yes.
Roar.
Yes.
Tomac.
Yes.
Wald.
Yes.
Zachmeyer.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries. And then, so Natalie, without any public,
You still have to ask.
so I just, well,
Usually you have to have it to where if somebody, they're supposed to send something in writing ahead of time.
Yes, ahead of time.
And the question, if you haven't received anything, do we have nothing?
Yeah, no, it's only if people request to be heard, the whole public thing, they do have to,
We
Tell
call
me.
three, at the commission meeting, we call three
Oh,
times.
okay.
so guys, I just want to understand this though.
Yeah,
And
I
this is
know
more
nothing.
discussion because so they have to submit in writing. We've received nothing.
correct.
So, but so then I call, but I can't let anybody come up
Right,
and
because they
speak.
didn't
So it's
submit
kind of,
anything.
right, like, I'm understanding that right.
But I thought if they signed this card and if they submitted it at the meeting, they
At the
could.
beginning of the
At
meeting.
the
Yes.
beginning, right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but like, for instance, tonight, I haven't received any cards. So
Right.
do I still have to call, which then would make, like, I feel like then I should qualify that I'm calling for public, but you can't
But
talk.
you can't tell.
Well,
I just want to, right, you see what I'm saying? I just want to make sure that I don't do it wrong.
But the commission, that Nathan has said that we will allow people to call, to talk,
Even without the card.
even without the card.
even without the card.
Okay, so then the other thing I want to clarify, because this is our first round at this, the way this is, it just says, yeah, our last item, members of the public wishing to provide comment or ask to provide their full name, address, agenda in writing prior to the meeting.
Yep.
But if I'm understanding this law correctly as well, they can only speak on items from the previous agenda
Mhm.
that
And
are
this
not
meeting.
That are not also
and
addressed.
Okay, and they can. Okay, so that's the other question though. Are we because I understood that it can't be from this. Like somebody can't. Like, don't they have to take advantage of the public hearing? For instance, Rusty's Saloon. If they submitted a card that they wanted to talk on Rusty's Saloon from tonight,
Mhm.
we do a public hearing on that. Now we get to the end and I open it again. This one person gets to come rehash Rusty's Saloon.
I think,
Is that
didn't it say
right?
this agenda and the previous one?
It does say that.
Yeah.
Right, but does that?
Yep.
But my question.
So that's literally what it says.
But did that? We already had a public hearing
Right.
on that item. So is
And they
that?
could come talk again. I don't
Well,
know.
I guess
they have
I
to? I
didn't,
gave
I
them-
didn't think so.
I gave them the
If
opportunity
you already
to
had,
talk,
if
right?
you already had the public hearing, I didn't think that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
So that's what I want to clarify, right? Like they
Don't
have
ask
their
me.
opportunity. Well, they have to submit the card before.
Yep.
We have a public hearing. That's their opportunity. So if I have one card or two cards, but it was for tonight's public hearings, they're done. They don't get to come be the one person that grandstands all night on that last
I don't
item,
know.
right?
I don't.
Let's ask Al and see what he said.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that would happen, but
Al or
like, some of
Chase.
those controversial.
Yeah.
Well, like the city, man, the mayor, he controls the meeting. I'll give you 2 minutes. I'll give you 1 minute. I'll give you half an hour. I'll give you an hour. He controls the meeting.
Yep.
So you're the chairman. You control a lot of that.
Well, what did we put in code?
Oh, here,
Did we
I
put a
think I
time-
have
I think
it.
we put a time constraint on that.
It was
right?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah, okay, so that's true. They can't,
Yeah.
and we don't have to solve this tonight, just, obviously, we didn't have anything tonight.
For 15 seconds, let it call for public comment,
Yeah,
so that we're compliant is definitely,
The city has theirs at the beginning of the meeting.
that's what we did ours at the end, because we hoped that people would just speak to their topics and leave, which is what happened tonight.
So would it be something,
Otherwise, somebody gets up there and tries to filibuster.
Right,
Or
and if we have a
if they
3-minute
pack the
limit,
room, everybody come in, everybody gets their 3 minutes and they got them, and they try to pack the room and try to filibuster.
what are you thinking,
so
Carter?
would it be like at this time, open up the public hearing to anybody who has submitted cards on agenda items that have not been discussed at this
Right, did
meeting?
anybody submit a card on an item that has not been discussed already, or that they have not had an opportunity to speak on tonight? Right? 'Cause then-
Or anything from this agenda or the previous.
Mhm.
right, but, so if they submitted a card, they want to talk on Rusty Saloon, we had that public hearing and they spoke,
And
Do
they
they
could
get to
definitely hold them to 3 minutes.
on their second round at the end.
Yep, you got 3 minutes. And
We're gonna check on that one though.
Well, it says, okay, so it says in here, and I have the thing Andy gave
Yes.
us. Okay, point 2, members of the public, topic must be pertinent to the public entity, blah, blah, blah. Okay, each person, each member of the public wishing to provide public comment must submit a speaker card in person or via email to the board chairman prior to the meeting being called to order that includes individual's name, address. Individual should indicate the agenda topic they intend to address from the current meeting agenda or the previous meeting agenda.
It's just anybody who submitted cards then?
Basically, yeah.
So then, we're basically, this,
So we don't specify if they had to have talked, like say I submit my card at the beginning of the meeting and I want to talk about something from this meeting. It doesn't specify if I was supposed to do it during the public hearing that's designated for that item or if I can do it at the end. It doesn't say.
Well, I suppose it would be silly on their part to not discuss it during the public.
And I like Dennis's thing. You're the chairman, so I mean,
And I don't look for this being abused, I don't look for it to be used or abused myself.
Well, I think Morton County and Andy will agree with me is that we've been really good about making sure that the public gets to talk.
Always.
We have
Yes.
never, since I've been on the commission, we have never
totally.
not allowed somebody that they couldn't talk. Since I've been on the commission.
well, and to be honest, it seems to me the purpose of this is not to say, oh, how do we, make more room for people to talk because we already do. It's to shut down people who are talking about things that have no relevance to this or the past agenda. It's limiting to this or the past agenda.
Right.
That's the purpose of it. It isn't to say, oh my gosh, we didn't allow people enough time. It's to protect the government meeting from being abused by people who are talking about things that are not relevant.
Okay.
All right, so with that, I'll open the public comment period for tonight. Second call.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I didn't know that this was happening. So
Is
in order,
Becky, is this on tonight, on an agenda item from tonight or last meeting?
well, I don't know what the heck anymore. I have no idea.
Definitely. Let me do the third call and I'll close it.
You a card.
Yeah,
So
we
is
didn't
there
have a card.
special cards or what
Yes.
the heck?
They're supposed to be over there on that table.
Yes, there are cards.
So if there's a public meeting and I'm like thinking, well, I should go to that and see whatever. So if I don't hand a card in ahead of time, I can't even talk?
No, if there was a public hearing item at that meeting, you go ahead and talk about the public hearing. It's if you missed the last meeting and you wanted to talk about something from the last meeting, then you can submit your card and say, I want to talk about this again because I missed it last time.
But that has to be in before the meeting starts.
Or I think we would accept it like tonight if you gave it to Jesse
Before we get to that public
before
comment
we get to
period.
the public comment period.
Yeah.
This is something that the legislature did, Becky.
Well, as long as if you have a public meeting, like tonight's public meetings, people should be able to talk about that without having a card in, right?
Providing some.
Okay.
Yes, during the
Okay, I
public
just want to
hearing,
make
yes.
sure.
During the public hearing, yes, they can talk. They do not need a card.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So I have a question though, because I'm forgetful. Are you gonna start including the old agendas? Because I'm gonna be like, wait, what? We talked about that last
Well,
time.
we should always have the
We always have the
with
minutes.
the minutes.
Always have the minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, but
Minutes should be your resource for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah, we'll probably have to work through it.
like,
It'll be fine.
It'll be fun.
yeah, until we can't remember anything.
We'll get
It'll
there.
be good.
There's
Chairman.
we'll discuss that.
Well, that's my other issue. Like, I've got these eyes that are doing this. It's like, what the heck?
All right. Thank you, Natalie.
I don't think anybody made
Natalie, I have
Oh,
one question.
Move to adjourn?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. We're adjourned. Thanks, Dennis.
Kelly,